A few weeks ago, I was in the city of Cincinnati, and when I go visit American cities, I try to visit diverse communities. This particular Sunday was special. I went to an African-American Baptist church in an industrial part of Cincinnati, a rainy Sunday morning, and I walk in there, and there's this community stands up to a man and a woman and rapturously embraces me as a representative of the state of Israel. What's the connection between Israel and this African-American community in a part of industrial Cincinnati? And to answer all of these questions, you've got to go back. You've got to go back much further than Israel's creation in 1948. You've got to go back hundreds of years to the founding sort of roots of this country, of America, and the idea of America, to the day when a certain buckled shoe lit upon a certain rock off the Massachusetts shore, and the owner of that shoe, a gentleman by the name of William Bradford, who was a leader of 101 Puritan pilgrims who came on the Mayflower, he made an interesting declaration. He said, "Come, let us proclaim the word of the Lord in Zion." Somewhere in the mind of William Bradford, the shore of Massachusetts, which is a perfectly lovely state, don't get me wrong, got conflated with the idea of Zion. Why was this new world the promised land? And the reason has to do with the origins of the Puritans and who they were. They were a dissenting Protestant sect in 17th century England that had suffered terribly at the hands of the ruling church. So deeply ingrained was the biblical Hebrew narrative. An American said, no, the image of the United States should be Moses leading the children of Israel out of bondage and into the promised land. And there was truly a heated debate. And at the end, what can I say? The follically challenged bird won. And you didn't get Moses. America came this close having Moses. But you should know that the seal showing Moses leading the children of Israel out of bondage into the promised land was designed by Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Jefferson. Because they had so deeply embraced the biblical Hebrew narrative. Now, for many of these Puritans and their descendants, they concluded that since they were the new Jews, the new Israel, they had a strong kinship relationship with the old Jews. And since they had inherited a new promised land, they had a strong connection to the old promised land, the land of Israel, and they concluded that to be good Christians, to be good Americans, it was their divinely ordained duty to help the old Jews get back to their old promised land and reestablish their sovereignty there, their independence. The notion of restorationism. And restoration was not a peripheral notion in early colonial, post-colonial America. It was mainstream. You had John Adams, the second president of the United States, saying it was his most ardent wish that 100,000 Jewish soldiers would march back into Judea, as he called it, and reclaim the Jewish kingdom. Abraham Lincoln, 1863, pledged that once he had restored the unity of the United States after the Civil War, he would try to restore the Jews to their ancient independence and their homeland. Woodrow Wilson, who was the grandson and son of Presbyterian ministry, was asked by the British government in 1917 whether the British government should issue a proclamation supporting the creation of a Jewish national home in what was then known as Palestine. Very important what the Americans have to say. British were trying to get the Americans into World War I. And Woodrow Wilson gave his unequivocal support for this.